I looked in the mirror and I hated how I looked. I wasn't overweight, but I wasn't muscular either. I was just stuck in a skinny fat body. So I did what everyone else does. I followed pretty much every single fitness influencer that I could find. I bulked when they said bulk, I ate when they said to eat, and I trained when they said to train. And after months of hard work, I looked the same, maybe even worse. Here's the truth. Generic fitness advice doesn't work for skinny fat guys. In fact, it can keep you stuck in the same body for years unless you understand what actually matters. And that's what I'm going to show you today. So here's what we're going to cover: how fitness can actually make you skinny fat, how to fix skinny fat, and the big question on every skinny fat guy's mind, which is, should you bulk or cut first? Because if you get this wrong, you can waste years getting nowhere. But if you get this right, you can finally escape the skinny fat trap for good. Oh, and to make this easier, I've put together a free AI skinny fat fixer in the description below. It's going to help build you a personalized roadmap. But first, let's break this down. Being skinny fat isn't random. It happens because you've been following the wrong recipe. You want to think about baking a cake. If you don't know what you're doing, you're throwing too much of one ingredient, not enough of another, and even though you've put in all the effort, the cake comes out flat, dry, or dense. And it's exactly what happens with fitness. You put in the hours, you put in the sweat, and you follow the plan. But if the recipe is wrong, then the result is always going to be disappointing. That's why so many guys, including me, end up skinny fat. And the scary part is that you can keep wasting months or even years in this cycle if you don't realize where you're going wrong. So let me show you the 4 ways the recipe goes wrong. And once you see these, the fix will finally make sense. When you're baking a cake, balance matters. If you put in way too much flour, it won't rise properly. Instead of a light, fluffy cake, you're going to get something that's dense, heavy, and flat. And honestly, that's exactly how I ended up looking: heavier on the scale, but not actually muscular. The reason was that I was following classic fitness advice online, the eat big to get big mantra. Every influencer was saying it, so I listened. I pushed my calories higher and higher, thinking more food would mean more muscle. But when you're skinny fat, your body isn't primed for a massive surplus. So instead of fueling muscle growth, most of those extra calories are just going to go straight to fat. And because there's not much muscle underneath, that extra fat is just going to make you look softer. That's why eat big to get big is one of the biggest traps that skinny fat guys fall into. It doesn't help you build muscle faster, it just pushes you deeper into skinny fat. And the truth is that the right recipe isn't about stuffing your face with more food. It's about eating the right amount so the muscle can actually show. But that's just one side of the problem. The other side is just as common and just as damaging. Now we know what happens when you add in too much flour to the cake, but what happens when you skip the sugar and butter completely? When you bake a cake without sugar or butter, it still comes out of the oven, but it's dry, flat, and has no structure. You can put in all the effort, but the end result will just feel hollow and disappointing. That's exactly what happens when guys try to overcorrect and fix things by adding more and more cardio or cutting their calories down to next to nothing. The weight on the scale might drop, but you're not actually fixing skinny fat. You're just burning off the little muscle you do have and keeping the fat that you have on top, which leaves you looking even flatter and even softer than before. So now we know what happens when you skip the sugar and the butter, and what happens when you add in too much flour, but what happens when you start throwing random ingredients into the bowl and just mixing and matching? You mix and stir, you feel like you're doing a lot of work, and the bowl looks busy, but when it comes out of the oven, it's just a complete mess. Nothing holds it together, nothing tastes right, and you're left wondering where all the effort went. That's exactly what happens when you follow random workouts online. One day it's a chest day, the next day it's a high volume arm pump, then a week later you're copying some random influencer's brutal leg day. You're working hard, you're sweating, but there's no structure and there's no progression. And just like that ruined cake, the end result in the gym is disappointing. You don't get stronger, you don't build noticeable muscle, and the truth is that random workouts will never get you far. Just like baking, you need a proven recipe, a training plan that actually works, and then you have to stick to it long enough to actually see results. That's how ingredients finally come together. But here's the catch: even if you find the right recipe, it still won't work if you keep changing it halfway through. It's exactly like putting the cake in the oven, but every 10 minutes you take it out, you stir it around, swap some of the ingredients, so you're not messing up the recipe this time, you're just too impatient to let it finish. And because of that, it never bakes properly. That's exactly what happens when you keep switching programs too soon. 1 month you bulk, 1 month you cut, you try one workout split, then you ditch it for the next trending one. You never give your body enough time to adapt. Progress doesn't come from constantly switching things around, it comes from picking a proven plan and giving it enough time to cook all the way through. So now you've seen the 4 traps: too much flour, not enough sugar and butter, throwing in random ingredients, and never letting the cake finish baking. When you think about it, no wonder so many guys end up skinny fat. The recipe they're following is broken. But here's the good news: there is a proven recipe that actually works, and when you follow it the right way, the result finally comes out how it's supposed to. And that's how I finally fixed skinny fat. I stopped trying to follow random influencer tips and I followed a proven recipe. For skinny fat guys, the recipe is simple. You start with a mini cut, then move into a lean bulk and stick to one training plan consistently instead of just program hopping. The mini cut isn't about starving yourself, it's short. It's 4 to 6 weeks max. You drop your calories into a deficit, keep your protein high and keep your lifting heavy. You're not trying to get stage lean, you're just trying to trim fat fast to reveal a clean foundation before building on top of it. Then once you've reset with the mini cut, you move into a lean bulk. That doesn't mean stuffing yourself, it means eating in a small surplus, maybe a couple of hundred calories above maintenance, while focusing on progressively overloading in the gym. You want to be slow, steady, controlled, and that's how you finally build muscle without much fat gain. And just like baking, the secret isn't to switch recipes every week, it's picking one that actually works and following it through to the end. That's how you go from skinny fat to lean and muscular. The right ingredients, the right recipe, baked properly. So no more endless cutting, no more dirty bulking, just a simple system that actually works. But here's the real question. What's the point of knowing how to not ruin a cake if you still don't know the recipe to bake the cake right? So watch this video next because I'm going to show you what most guys miss, and it's probably what's going to keep you skinny fat for the rest of your life.